This is the cheapest that my prices have been in 3 years.
It's the return of seasonality, ladies and gentlemen.
I got 9 other creators from across the country, no, scratch that, from across the world to talk about what they're seeing in the car market and where they think it's going.
Car prices are going to continue to fall and repossessions are about to get out of control.
And it could go to the point where we can see a lot of people defaulting on their mortgages. We're already seeing this happen a lot with credit cards and with car loans, as you know.
And I'm not the only one that's seeing prices come down.
The price of those have absolutely tanked in the UK, some of them losing up to about half their value in 1 year.
What about F-150s, America's favorite vehicle? Not at a $72,000 MSRP.
And you're going to want to watch to the end because you'll never believe who showed up to help me out with this one. This is going to be epic. So what we know about the car market in 2024 is that it's no longer going to be a seller's market. Inventory across the board at dealerships, both new and used, is stacking up, and the demand for these vehicles is going down, not because people don't want the cars, but it's because they can't afford them.
Hey Brandon, Zach Shefska here from Car Edge. The car market, it's flipping. We've got domestic products that are sitting for a long time on dealer lots. Maybe it's because it's $50,000 MSRPs. Finally, we are seeing these dealers lower their advertised prices. Look at this, man. $7,000, $6,000 under MSRP is what this dealer is currently advertising. They've come down significantly the longer this Charger has sat.
And what we also know about this car market right now is delinquencies, defaults, repos, just like all of these that are sitting behind me, they are up. And they're going to continue to go up because the economy is not going to get any better anytime soon. And banks loaned way too much for these vehicles that were purchased over the last 2 to 3 years, and now we're seeing it. We're seeing repos come through this the system at these used car dealer auctions, and people are getting farther and farther behind on their car loans, and they're losing their cars.
Over 100 million Americans have an auto loan, and the average is underwater on their car from the purchase price of over $6,054 to be specific, according to payments.com and Bloomberg. So when you take into consideration how bad this scenario is we're walking into, you're going to see that we're in the mother of all bubbles. It's the auto market. Average loan to value is 125%. So if someone were to buy a $50,000 car, they would walk into the dealership, they'd roll taxes, tags, fees, everything into the loan. So they'd purchase a $50,000 car and leave with a $62,500 loan. So they're underwater $12,500 plus that $6,000 amount. They're underwater almost 20 grand on a $50,000 car. Pretty substantial. This is according to Kelley Blue Book, right, and Capital One. But look at how bad this scenario is now. So interest rates went from 2-3% a couple years ago to now, somewhere in that 10 to 15% range, depending on your credit score. You look at this. On a $40,000 purchase price, 60-month loan term, you're looking with $1,000 down, you're looking at $800 a month. Like $800 a month. How much was a used car back in 2007 during the great financial crisis, 2007, 2008? $7,900. So you went from a situation to where you could buy that car outright in 8 months to now, $800 a month for the next 5 years. Look at car insurance back then, $847 for an annual policy, so about $60 a month, to now $2,500 per year, according to Bankrate.com 3 days ago. So what are we going to have? We're going to have a situation where as this economy gets worse and lenders start to repossess and start to get these cars back, they're going to need to unload this inventory. Used car prices are going to continue to fall and repossessions are about to get out of control.
So we know from history that problems in the car market precede larger problems in the economy, and we're already starting to see cracks in the real estate market. Now, I'm not a real estate expert, but I did bring one in.
Hey Brandon, so a couple of major concerns I have for the housing market moving forward into 2024 are a couple of things. The first thing is how much people's mortgage payments are going to go up due to the rising cost of homeowners insurance and property taxes. I have been getting numerous reports from my subscribers and from news stories about how people are seeing their escrow payments jump anywhere between $200, $300 to sometimes $500 plus per month due to the fact that their escrow is not collecting enough in order to keep up with the payments to pay the proper amount of homeowners insurance and property taxes. And ultimately, that is an expense that can bankrupt a lot of homeowners, and basically people can't afford that. One myth that we've always been told about owning a home versus renting is that your payment's going to be fixed. You get the 30-year fixed rate mortgage and you don't have to worry about your housing costs going up every year, which is actually completely false. And a lot of people are finding this out right now the hard way, so much so where it's actually pushing people to sell their homes because they cannot afford this increased cost of living. The second thing is the inevitable rise of unemployment. Whenever we have seen record low rates of unemployment like we have over the past couple of years, it inevitably moves to a higher rate down the road. When the Fed starts cutting interest rates at some point in 2024, history tells us that within 6 months or so, we see a recession. And when that recession comes, it's likely going to drive unemployment higher than it is today, and it could go to the point where we can see a lot of people defaulting on their mortgages. We're already seeing this happen a lot with credit cards and with car loans, as you know, and next is going to be mortgages. In 2023, we already saw a pretty substantial uptick in people defaulting on mortgages, and in 2024, that is bound to get worse as we enter a recession.
So new car sales are up about 19% year over year, and used car sales are up right around 7% year over year. And I know what you're saying because I see it a lot. Well, why is the car market in such bad shape if the actual number of sales is actually up? There's a problem with these numbers that you're using because we're using year over year numbers. And if we turn back the clock and go back to last year, then the landscape of the inventory across both these new car dealers and the used car dealers look completely different. See, new car dealers were still scrounging for inventory. They were still trying to keep every allocation that they were allotted, and they were even dipping into the used car dealer auctions to buy more inventory because these car manufacturers were still behind on actually getting vehicles to these new car lots. So the actual inventory increase from last year to this year is way more than 20% in a lot of dealership cases, especially on the new car side. You're even getting into the 200% increase of inventory on these dealers' lots. So no, their actual sales should not be up just 20%. They should be up hundreds of percent of what they were selling this time last year. So that's why the numbers are kind of skewed. And yes, it looks like overall that they're selling more cars, but these dealers are in much worse shape than what their actual sales numbers would say. And it's not just our country where we're seeing problems in the car market. Let's hop across the pond.
Hi Brandon, it's Joe here from the Shifting Metal YouTube channel, over the pond here in the UK, and I'm stood on my car sales forecourt pitch. I guess you guys would call it a used car lot. A bit like the weather, the market has definitely cooled off a little bit. Things aren't moving as fast as they used to be, and obviously prices are coming down a little bit. And the area that has most definitely taken the biggest hit this year, and I think going into 2024 is going to be much worse, is electric vehicles. The price of those have absolutely tanked in the UK. Some of them losing up to about half their value in 1 year. The prices have just gone through the floor. That's partly been due to new EVs coming out, taxation over here. Whereas most of them were completely free of tax, they're now actually starting to charge a tyre tax. So the more tyres you use, you get a tax on that. And going into 2024, the main dealers over here are under a huge amount of pressure to sell electric vehicles. In fact, they have targets, and if they don't meet them, they get fined £15,000 per car. So there's a huge incentive to sell them. Of course, they're going to cut prices, try and push them out as fast as they can so they don't get fined, kind of completely mucking up the market, ruining second-hand prices, people who already own electric vehicles, and basically ruining that market completely. Luckily, where we're priced, we seem to be doing okay and seem to be bucking the trend of prices going down and sales slowing down. So I hope you're doing as well over there.
Interest rates are too high for the actual prices that dealers are trying to sell these vehicles. And we're seeing that now in these inventory buildups. We're seeing it now from these manufacturers that they're actually incentivizing people to buy vehicles. And the way that they do that is by giving these dealerships money to actually take off the vehicles when the customer comes in to purchase it.
The last couple months, we have seen increases for our Subaru inventory and production levels. But with that, buyer demand has still stayed strong. Subaru's done a really good job at making sure vehicles are still selling. And so while you may not see below MSRP prices very often on the popular Forester and the Crosstrek you see behind me, you will likely see opportunities for prices to soften on some of their less popular models like the third row Subaru Ascent, the Legacy, and even on the Subaru Outback. And Subaru just released some lower APRs for people who are looking to finance to help incentivize buyers to buy buy their new Subarus.
And these incentives, these special interest rates are something that we haven't seen in about 3 years. And now these manufacturers have to do it because they know the metal's not moving. So you're actually able to go into a dealership and negotiate a price. You're actually able to go get vehicles under MSRP right now. That's something we have not seen in 3 years.
Hi Brandon, Kimberly here from Auto Finance Sense. Now there's this downward pressure on pricing with new vehicle inventory coming back, but interest rates are still high. So I anticipate seeing more manufacturer APR incentives slowly coming out to help balance things out, hopefully along with longer terms. So instead of 36 months at 3.9, we'll hopefully see 60 to 66 month loans and more 0%. Used car rates are still really high, so I believe that manufacturer CPOs or certified pre-owned vehicles will come with more APR incentives as well. Now, historically, dealership finance managers are going to go into a lull for the next few months, mid to late January into March, which typically means fewer opportunities, and each buyer is an opportunity. So when you combine this with more APR incentives where rates can't be marked up, pricing will come down on products in the finance office and be much more negotiable. Fewer opportunities equals more wiggle room with the finance manager.
Now, as we're seeing these sales dry up for a lot of these new car dealers, they're going to have to get back to where they're actually selling these vehicles across the board for under MSRP. And that's what we're going to see in the year to come, that these dealerships are going to have to fight more for your business, and they're going to be more negotiable. You're going to get more incentives out of the manufacturers. They got to get butts in seats because they're not doing it right now. And from now on, they're really going to have to fight for your business.
What about F-150s, America's favorite vehicle? Not at a $72,000 MSRP. Let's scroll down here and we can see in the price history, drum roll please, this dealer's down to $66,930. Interestingly, in December, they were at $64,930. I wouldn't be surprised if they lower their prices more now that we're into the new year. It's not just Dodge and Ford products. How about Kia Tellurides, one of the hottest vehicles in 2023? Let's look at new Kia Tellurides, and one of my favorite things to do, days on market, one that's been sitting on a dealer lot for over 120 days. Sure, this one here at King Kia. $54,515 MSRP on a Kia. That is insane. What I do love to see, however, is if I scroll down here, look at this price history, Brandon. We are down to $51,516 as the advertised price. And if I go all the way back to when they originally listed this for sale in September of last year, they were advertising with $1,000 over MSRP. I don't know what other information you need to help paint a clear picture that the market has finally started to flip, and fortunately, this price history data is showing that just as well.
And the EV space might get hit worst of all.
All right, so for 2024, what I'm expecting out of the EV car market in the United States is that I expect prices to continue coming down. The big thing to think about there is that the EV tax credit that the U.S. federal government is giving out for electric vehicles, the $7,500 credit, is now moving to point of sale, which means that now customers can take that credit right when they buy the car, when they take a loan or when they take a lease. And the big dynamic to think about there is that Tesla's Model Y, which is the best-selling car in the United States for electric vehicles and SUVs in general, will have that credit.
Hey Brandon and everyone, it's Dr. Know-It-All. If we look at the price of the Model Y over the past couple of years, we can see an amazing trend that you really never see, and it goes to show how crazy 2020 through 2022 really is. So if we look at this trend line, you can actually see the blue line is new car prices, and it gets almost up to $75,000 in about July of 2022. And what's really nutty is that the used car prices followed this trend. And so if you purchased a Tesla Model Y at the end of 2020 and you wanted to sell it in July of 2022, you actually could have made a profit on your car, and that never happens. But as with most other products in the 2020 to 22 range, of course the prices had to come down. So if we look at this other chart, we can see that the highest year to date starting at the beginning of 2023, so last year to date, was right at $55,000 at the beginning of February of 2023, whereas the average price now is about $44,000, so about $10,000 reduction in in price in 2023.
So every automaker has to ensure that their product lineup aligns with how Tesla is going to sell their vehicles, their EVs, because they are the largest market driver. So that means your Mustang Mach-E's, your Ioniq 6s, all these cars, all these EVs from automakers will come down with that to try and stay competitive. And as those automakers potentially become eligible to take advantage of that credit, their prices will go down even more because they can offer that credit at point of sale.
Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Now back to you, Brandon.
So we've been talking about all of these problems in the car market, but now where are prices going to go from here?
What's going to happen to prices? In my opinion, it's the return of seasonality, ladies and gentlemen. We will see all 4 seasons in the car business this year. And what do I mean by that when I say seasonality? Well, the first 4 to 6 weeks of the year, we normally see some lower pricing, especially on pre-owned cars, because it's the slowest time of the year. Once we get into spring selling season and tax season, March, late February, March, April into May, you'll see prices go up a little bit, especially on pre-owned cars. That's normal seasonality for pre-owned cars. Once we start getting into May on new cars, we should start seeing some summer sell down start. So you might see continued downward pressure on new car pricing through the summer and into the fall. And then typically what happens in late August, beginning of September, we start seeing wholesale values decline again for pre-owned cars. And then once we hit the latter part, the third, fourth quarter of the year, get into November, December, we start seeing massive incentive spends from the manufacturers again. So we will see, in my opinion, during 2024, a return to our normal seasonality and what we saw, I don't know, historically prior to COVID. So we're getting back to more normal times, and we should see more normal seasonal adjustments in pricing as we move forward in 2024.
So what we do know that in the car market, in our economy, 2024 is going to be a crazy year. But what I'm very proud about is that we're able to pull a bunch of these creators together and be able to put a video together that hopefully is going to help you out. What I want to do in the future is be able to do more of this. So please show your support to all these creators that were able to send me clips to be able to show to you by going to their channels, hitting subscribe, watch their videos. They're full of a ton of information, and what all of us are trying to do is trying to help you. So thank you so much, because without you watching our videos, we would not be here. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts so much for just taking the time out of your day to watch our videos. Thank you so much.
Check 1, 2, check. Perfect. Right? Yeah.
Be a seller's market. I just stepped on something.
All right, Brandon, gonna give you something that you can work with here. Let's do it.
I don't like that shadow.
Credit will start to go. Let me try that one again.
I'm done.
So hit end recording.
I did.
Cool. You're good to go then.
Do I need to? Oh, it's still